we can talk about the other guy that starts with the letter S. That's the
Soren.
Thank you. He is there to fight.
What are you about to say about Soren?
He's great.
Okay.
I love him.
Okay.
Does he ever get to fight anybody? No, because he's so far away.
Oh, you don't use him properly then.
I do know how to. I'm aggressive. Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 461, and it is a director's episode! Question of the week. What one video game announcement would break the internet?
There's an easy answer that I'll just get out of the way so that we don't have to say it each.
Is it a sequel?
Yeah, it's Half-Life 3.
It's a trequel. Yeah, we all had it on our list as the low-hanging fruit, I think.
I wouldn't freak out. Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, good for y'all. But the internet
would you even play it?
Eventually,
No.
yeah, but I would not
On
be
the podcast?
freaking out because at this point, it's too memed to even be hype.
It is. We know Nolan wouldn't freak out at almost anything, though, unless they were like, Path of Exile 3.
If they said that, I'd be like, wait, finish 2.
I don't know what. I've got one thing on my list here. I've got a list.
Okay.
I know I said
Okay.
one thing. I'm just gonna go through them, and anything that stands out to you,
I like-
we can dialogue
I
over.
like that.
But
Okay.
World of StarCraft, Switch 2 canceled.
Yes.
Hollow Knight
Okay.
Silk
Whoa,
Song.
slow down.
Okay.
Switch 2 canceled?
Yeah, Switch 2
I'd
canceled.
be hype about that.
I'm still stuck on World
Woo!
of StarCraft.
Cancel it.
Yes,
Hollow Knight Silk Song, GTA 7.
We
That
got
was like
GTA
my answer
7
for
before
Nolan.
GTA 6.
Before 6.
And Ocarina of Time remake. I know they've done something like that before, Nolan, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about a like ground up remake.
At this point, it wouldn't break the internet. I think a lot of people don't even know what that game is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Really?
You're thinking too narrow, and I know you wanted video game announcement, but like
I'll tell you what it
here's
is.
an announcement.
here's a more likely
Don't say
thing.
mine.
about
Kenny.
Russia, Ukraine.
No, we get a presidential
Wow.
decree that video games are now illegal for minors.
Look, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah, wait. No, I would.
So
no,
people
that's a bad
that
answer too.
get ore and gold aren't able to play video games anymore?
ORS. Don't act dumb.
Oh,
Listen,
young people.
no, a Fortnite movie that would break the internet.
Oh, gross!
But y'all know
That would
that's right.
break
That's I mean,
so many things.
that just
But the
happened.
Minecraft movie didn't break the internet.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Everyone
My
hated.
internet still works.
Everyone memed on it, and they were like, "Don't do this, please, God." And then they released the trailer, and they were like, "Why
Best
did y'all
thing
do
ever.
this?"
Oh, really?
It's so
I
stupid.
bet it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exactly what little Minecraft boys want.
Everyone whined about the fact that they were going to make a Mario movie, and then
Ooh.
they did a great job with that.
I didn't whine about that. I thought that was a great idea, and I knew they'd be fine because they had that animation team that everybody likes. But this is Jack Black real life with Jason
Yeah.
Momoa, and they're like mining. It's gonna be really stupid. And for little babies, you're right. That's who they're making it for, which is fine. But like most of the fan base doesn't want that movie. I don't think.
Kenny, you want a World of StarCraft?
I do. But I won it like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You can't
So
play an
it's-
MMO now.
Right. It's a different world that we live in, and I don't know if I have an MMO in me these
Wow.
days, honestly.
I certainly don't. Screw that genre.
But do you have a video game announcement in you, or did you already? Was the one that you said for Nolan, was that yours?
Yeah, I've already said two
Oh.
things.
Okay.
And
So then we all share.
mine was the Fortnite movie.
And yours was the Fortnite movie, and mine was GTA 7.
That's a really good one.
That's funny that comes out before 6. I love it.
Thank you for bearing with us as we just had this lengthy discussion. I'm sorry you couldn't just mash through the dialogue to get to the part that you'd actually enjoy,
Shots
Kenny.
fired. Wait, okay, you dropped his name.
Okay.
All right.
Rude.
Like in our retro game of the week, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance.
Overview.
We'd like to begin by welcoming our newest director, Brandon, to the show. Thank you for joining us today. Take a moment and introduce yourself to us, to our listeners, and tell us all why you decided to have us and our community play Path of Radiance when you could have selected any game in the world. You selected this Fire Emblem game. So give us the rundown.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon. I'm from Northern Illinois here, and Been a long time listener of the podcast. You guys are part of the reason I survived COVID, actually. That's how I found you guys. So I just needed something to keep my mind off things. And my wife's like, you should find a podcast. And I love retro video games. I'm a Nintendo diehard fan at heart. So that's how I
Perfect.
that's how I found
We'll be there for the next one too.
The next pandemic?
Let's
And
hope
also, if you rate and review us on iTunes or anything else, the cure for COVID would be a good tagline there.
That's got a good ring to it.
And then Path of Radiance. Why that game?
So it's my first entry into the Fire Emblem series, my first entry into tactical RPGs, actually, and it is probably one of my favorite games on the GameCube. I have actually played this game 15 times now, and I've been avidly added for a transfer run for the sequel, Radiant Dawn, because if you max out your characters and all that, you can actually transfer your data over.
Yeah. And that is a Wii. Was that on Wii?
It's on Wii.
Yes, it was on the Wii.
Yeah.
And one of the only Fire Emblems I have never played. But it is
Really?
considered one of the best. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't gotten around to it.
Oh, yeah.
I love when they give you that option. The whole you played a previous game
Mass
and
Effect.
now you get
I was gonna say Mass Effect.
extra,
Yes.
bonuses from that for loyalty is such a cool developer choice. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
Nolan, I'm actually surprised that you played that many Fire Emblems. I knew that you've been a fan of the series. I didn't know you've played almost all of them.
I played almost all of the old ones, like on the NES and the Super Nintendo.
Well, the Famicom and the Super Famicom.
Exactly. We didn't have them yet in the States. I played all those, and then like the more modern ones, there are some re-releases of those old games on DS as well, but I don't know why I don't know. The Wii is weird, and I was like, I don't feel like breaking out the Joy-Cons? That's not what they're called. The Wiimote, yeah.
Yeah, you're dating yourself here. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is the 9th Fire Emblem title, although only the 3rd to be released over here. And it's the first to make its way to a home console in quite some time. Obviously, there were earlier titles on Famicom, Super Famicom, whatever else, but most of the titles before this were handheld specific. Masayuki Horikawa led a team from Intelligent Systems in producing this title, which was published by Nintendo for the GameCube in 2005. You find yourself in the story of Ike, who is an up-and-coming mercenary. He's following in his father's footsteps by training to be a professional soldier. Pretty soon, though, you are surprised. You and the entire nation are surprised by an unexpected invasion into Crimea from the nation of Dane. And your band of professional soldiers finds a girl. Of course, she's a princess. And you're quickly pulled into much broader intrigue across the continent of Tellius.
Ike and all of them were surprised at the invasion, but the player was not, because of how every single
Fire Emblem.
Because that's how every game goes.
Yeah, I don't. That's just their thing. I think it's funny that they've committed so hard at this point that that's how every story starts.
Yeah, just game tropes. You're like, oh, we rescued a crazy woman.
Right.
Of course she's the princess.
Yeah.
They don't mind leaning really heavily into some of the tropey storytelling here.
I wish Kenny liked story, because I like listening to Kenny talk about story. Like when,
Yeah. He doesn't care though.
And here's the thing: he does like story. He just doesn't like story in video games. And I don't mean to do this all the time. False.
He doesn't like
mashing buttons.
Primary thing is not the primary thing I play video games for, but a good, well-told story is still enjoyable.
Well,
he just doesn't like reading it.
That's it. If in the first play, there's
I
something
don't
that
know
makes
if
him
that's
think
it.
that I can't.
No, at
it's
first,
like rushed.
look, I get I don't agree with, but I understand the first play situation, because you're trying to entertain, and in his mind, that's not entertaining or something.
Absolutely.
So instead, he's going to sit there.
But it
silently,
is
which
to
more
you,
entertaining.
Dustin. Of course.
He wants these sultry tones to narrate life for him, and when I deprive him of that joy, he gets salty about it.
I simply want to ask, though, and we don't have again. We probably shouldn't have gone here. This is my fault. Kenny, this week, did you engage with the story, or did you mash A?
I mean, we got a whole podcast to talk about this game and what it was about, including how it tells its story.
Okay.
If you want me to spoil that a little, though, I will tell you there was a little bit less overwhelming text here, a little bit more restraint in giving you things that mattered and getting quickly to the point, and the pacing of the story pulled me in and kept me up to speed generally throughout.
That's good to hear, Kenny, because just so y'all know, Dustin, you might know this because you've played a couple at this point.
Well, we all have played a couple.
Sure, but you played through Sacred Stones all the way. So,
Yeah.
okay, this game has one of the better stories in all of Fire Emblem, in my
what
opinion,
I've
and I
heard.
think in a lot of people's opinion.
Yes.
So that's good to know, Kenny, that you gave it a chance.
But all Fire Emblems are pretty story dense. Like, that's one of the things they're known for. Like,
Yes.
it's tactical RPG, heavy on the RPG. Like, there's a lot of it's heavy on the tactical as well, but there is a lot of story. You've got often like different factions and governments. It's usually across a whole continent or multiple continents. So yeah, you've got a cast of not just 1, 2, 4, or 10, but a playable cast of dozens and dozens and dozens.
Yeah, I think there's 46 characters
Yeah,
here, which
yeah.
is more characters than
Yeah.
some lines total in video games that I've enjoyed. You know?
It's not worth using them all, though. I'll tell you that some of those characters are pointless.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I need your full entire tier list.
I could probably give you that.
We have only played 2 other Fire Emblems on the podcast.
Yes.
They are
Sacred Stones,
Yep.
Sacred Stones and,
a Japanese name that I don't remember.
well, we say it in English,
You say it in English as
Mystery
of the
Mystery of the Emblem.
There we go. Mystery of the Emblem.
Yep.
And this is, Kenny already said, but this is a GameCube game. We've played a couple of games somewhat recently that are also on GameCube but on other consoles. What's the last GameCube exclusive game we played? Hint, it was also a director's episode.
Pikmin?
No, not Pikmin.
Ooh, exclusive.
Yeah, because Pikmin was on different things.
No,
as
it
well,
was exclusive, but
Pikmin's
like I'm just trying to
exclusive.
think of other.
You're right, it was
exclusives.
exclusive. We
Yeah.
played one. We played one since.
I would have
then, yeah.
said Resident Evil 4 because that was a director's episode, but that came out on PS2 as well.
Right.
I don't know.
Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness.
Was
Oh,
that
yeah.
the last?
I think that's the Pokemon game y'all don't remember, right?
It is the correct.
Oh, I remember it.
Okay,
Nolan
Nolan
has no
remembers.
recollection
I
whatsoever.
don't
but
think I played that. I don't think any of us did. That didn't happen.
Oh, you
it
guys
was a fever
did.
dream.
We did. We made
Oh,
you.
you did. And I own
happy.
that game, actually.
Hey.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great game.
So we're not only coming back to the Fire Emblem series
Yeah.
after a long hiatus, we're coming back to the GameCube exclusive after a fairly lengthy
Yeah.
hiatus.
Another reason I chose it, because the GameCube is such an underrated, underappreciated system.
Ooh.
Hard agree.
I mean, it was really slept on because PS2 was so prominent and Xbox.
Yes, it was.
GameCube kind of got forgotten about in that time.
Since then, though, Nolan has picked up the controller, replaced his teddy bear with it next to him, and gone to sleep caressing it. So,
I do caress.
it gets the love that it deserves.
I mean, it is the best
From
controller
Nolan.
ever made.
Thank you.
Nolan.
Thank you.
Whoa,
Thank you.
whoa,
Voice of reason.
whoa.
Finally
Yes.
on this podcast.
That's why it came out on 3 systems after the GameCube, Dustin. Because we love it.
Because of the controller? What are we talking about here?
They've kept
Yes.
support for it all the way up until now.
Yeah, the GameCube was supported on the Wii, the Wii U, and the Switch. It is most notably used for Smash Brothers. It is like the go-to controller.
Another game we don't really love around here.
Well,
Yes, some of it, the
cut
sane
the
ones
tapes.
of us do.
Cut
Well,
the
The
tape.
sane.
Melee
Same
was
ones do.
superior in every way and is probably the most prominent Smash Brothers ever.
Quick reminder that the New Game Plus podcast is entirely supported by your contributions on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can support your favorite retro gaming podcast and also get really cool perks like early access first plays, 2 entries into Patreon pools, unedited episodes. All kinds of cool stuff is on there. If you want to check it out, all you got to do is head on over to patreon.com/NGP Podcast. We so appreciate your support.
Gameplay.
Every Fire Emblem, we've already said, has a wide cast of characters, but you always have your Lord, or in some games, it's not the class isn't Lord, it's Ranger in this case, but you have your main character that's going through the story. And Ike, I know, this is just a fact, that Ike was introduced to a lot of people through Smash Brothers, just like Marth was.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we didn't have the series, right?
Yeah.
I was introduced to him through this game, but he was in Brawl. And so, again, Smash Brothers brings Fire Emblem to people, I think. And, I mean, or you just confused him with Marth, because he kind of looks just like Marth. He's got blue hair, you know.
There is a look that
Yeah.
this whole universe has. Yeah.
We talked about it before, but Japan didn't send Fire Emblem our way for the longest time, our North Americans, because they thought we were stupid, and they're not wrong.
Yeah, they're right.
We had Advance Wars, which is
later.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Was it much later?
Yeah.
Even the early ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, earlier. I'm later than '96 and stuff, but like in the early 2000s and stuff, I think was some Advance Wars, and that was our Americanized version of Fire Emblem.
Yeah, they were like, let's make it war.
Yeah, you're right. War and tanks.
Something they can comprehend.
If Fire Emblem is anime chess, then this is just it's war chess.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's And it was our version. Then eventually, I guess I should have done my research a little bit better. What was the first
My
Fire
favorite
Emblem?
one. Came out in 2003.
Sacred Stones?
No, Fire Emblem 7. It's called The Blazing Blade is the translated name.
And it was handheld. Both the first two were handheld. Yeah.
Yep.
We already said this one was the first one to GameCube, but they all Fire Emblem all has this same kind of. You said Ranger for Ike. I didn't even know he was considered.
Yeah,
a
that's
Ranger.
his class.
Oh,
in
I
this
didn't
game.
even recognize.
Yeah.
But the thing that does make him a little bit unique here, not only is that Ranger is his class instead of Lord, is that I think this is the only one, or at least at the time, was the only protagonist or lead character that wasn't a part of the nobility.
Right.
Like, he's just kind of a commoner.
Sure.
He's a mercenary at the
yeah.
beginning of this game.
Sure.
And he's a pretty poor one. Like, at the opening cutscene is him being beaten by his dad, basically, and then you do the tutorial, and if you're Kenny, you're running away the whole time, which is so interesting. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
But the arc
Yeah.
of Ike in this one, I think, was the thing that was most interesting to me, because he starts as a commoner, not as a lord, and he doesn't start off as some skilled warrior. He's just a part of a merc crew, and by later he's different.
Immediately more interesting to me as well. Like, I love that setup. Always have in this game. I like Ike as a lord. He's up there for me.
Which I've got to ask, and I don't mean to just take over the conversation the whole time, but I've heard people say that he's more relatable since he's not a lord and he's this. I've heard a lot of people when they talk about games and movies and other things, but games often, that I can relate or I can't relate to this character. I've never needed to relate to any.
I haven't either.
Like, I don't need to see me as the protagonist. I'm not cool. Like, I don't need to.
Can't swing a sword.
Tell me their story, because life is boring.
Yes, 1000%. Now, is that you, or do you like to see yourself in the video game? And I know this might be privileged, because there's a lot of, like, I don't know, my type of people in video games, but I don't know. I never need to see myself represented.
No,
I'm definitely not a self-insert like player either. Like, I just want the character to be who the character is.
Yeah. I will say, though, I like the fact that Ike is like a commoner, and throughout the story, you see how, somebody, like, I think it's inspiring for people, because you could see how you can come from, like, being a commoner and work your way up in the world and really become someone. Like, it doesn't matter if you're born into, like, royalty or privilege or whatever. It's about your actions and what you do with your life that defines who you are, not your birth status.
Ooh, yeah, capitalism. Yeah, no, and I agree, like being inspired by some of those things for sure. And I do think, like, for me, why it's interesting is because it is different than the rest of the stories and the rest of the games. Like, having a commoner that does rise up and become something new and different is great. I love that.
Yeah.
After saving a princess's life.
Well,
I mean, sure, you've got to help out royalty one way or another.
right.
But characters are a very centralized,
huge
thing in this series, and it's no exception in this game. They start you with, in chapter 1, the game's broken up into chapters versus, I mean, you could call them stages. They're called chapters because it's telling a story. They give you a group of characters that you can start with, you can invest in those, or as you progress in the chapters, you will come across new characters, and you might go, oh, I like their look, or oh, I like that class. That might be interesting, and you can invest in them, or you can bench them, is what people typically say. But did you guys have a standout in like the early chapters, like in the first ones? Because in another trope in Fire Emblem is giving you a Marcus, or I forgot the original guy's name in the first Fire Emblem. I should remember it.
Oh, you're talking about like an overpowered.
Yeah,
you're overpowered. I mean, you get that here.
Absolutely,
you get your knight.
Titty is great.
Don't call her that.
What?
You're crazy. Seth in Sacred Stones.
How do you pronounce it?
Titanium. Or Titania?
No,
Titania.
It's probably Titania, right?
It's Titania.
Titania. My bad.
I was close.
Yeah. Great unit. Some people are like, no, don't use them. They're already promoted. Like they
Brandon says
it's
no,
a waste of
it.
XP. Give the XP to other underleveled characters, and do that. But don't bench your Marcus character. They're too good. They're way too
Quit calling
good.
your Marcus character.
I also play on hard mode, and you have to use them. Like,
strongly disagree. I have beaten hard mode 5 times. I disarm her. I never use her. I give all
you can.
my
That's fine. But your life's miserable for the first 10 chapters.
No.
Yeah.
But like, why? Is it because you kind of guys want to make the game harder for yourself? Like, here's the thing. I wouldn't use her if she leaves the party or whatever, but she stays with you. So, like, why would you
overusing
not?
her gimps you hard.
It hurts the other player growth.
Yeah,
sure.
big time.
You've got to balance.
But don't overuse her. But use her, like, strategically, and so that your other characters can get the easier units, and you can maybe take her down a difficult path. Because the map design in this game is fantastic and really challenging, unlike a lot of the other Fire Emblem games that can get kind of cookie cutter.
Nolan talks about benching characters as the choice you're going to have to make to figure out who else you're going to have to play. For a lot of us, it's not benching characters that defines your roster. It's the fact that your characters are dying off and they're getting culled because this game has permadeath.
Yes, it does.
It's another Fire Emblem staple.
And Kenny, I was thinking about that this week, and I never put 2 and 2 together. I think that's why I like hardcore mode in my ARPGs and like any game that offers a one death solution. I love the challenge of that.
Because of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance.
Yeah, because when I play these games, if a character dies, I don't reset.
Oh,
I play Iron Man. I just go.
Like it's such a bad.
It's great.
Forced mechanic. No, it's not great, and they know it's not. That's why in recent Fire Emblems, what do they allow you to do, Nolan?
Those games suck. I'm sorry. the reason it is good is because it makes gameplay decisions matter, and that is good game design. That's flawless game design. Actually, when your choices have weight, Kenny, you agree with this, so don't try to rebuttal.
No. I'm going to take it a step further. It's only fun when you have that kind of mechanic if you can't save scum. And the nature of these games mean if you want to go and unkill that character, you just start the fight over again and do it better.
No. It's only fun if the decisions you make are always the determining factor, and that's not the case in Fire Emblem. It's not the case in this game. You can make fine decisions, and then the game the roles behind the scenes can make it to where it doesn't matter how well you plan, you could still lose characters.
And then you get to play the rest of the and life.
And I don't like it.
I love games that don't let you just be God mode, and I like this as a fundamental mechanic of dead is dead on your characters. Yeah. Way better. Way better.
You've always enjoyed pain and torture
Yes.
in video games.
Yes.
You always enjoyed that, and in real life. I
don't know about that.
I have historically never in a Fire Emblem allowed any character to die until this week. This week I allowed a character to die because
Who do you not like?
I think well, it's
Who
not
was
just
it?
that. It's I think
It's not just that. Did you hear it?
Yeah, it's
it
not
is
just that.
it is a poorly refined quality and characteristic to they make I understand that your mages and your healers need to be weaker to some degree or have some if you're going to give them strengths on one hand you need to limit their movement or you need to limit their defense or something. You know they do need to have some kind of balance like that, but it doesn't need to be where if they take a single hit they've designed it so poorly that you have to get them experience to level them up to make them strong enough that they can be viable in battle. And once they're viable in battle, they're very strong. But you can't get them the experience because they can never make it to an enemy to fight them in the first place. And if you
put
do
them behind your other troops.
they can't get there. They're too slow.
Then
So
you're
are you
doing
referring to
something
the
wrong.
Laguz characters when they're in human
His-
form, or are you talking
No,
about
no,
Rise?
no, I'm not
his
even there
main
yet.
healer,
I think he's
Rise
he's
Rise
talking
is
about
dead.
Sword.
shot.
Yeah,
Rise is
I knew
dead.
it.
I let him stay dead. I don't care. I'll use golden areas to heal. I'm not gonna. You can't. He is too slow. He doesn't get enough experience. He's only healing for 6 HP and then he gets 6 experience. That's not. It's poorly tuned. And they're too slow to even get into battle. The battle's done before they can even get to the first person.
He's
You'd
not there
rather
to
use a
fight.
consumable.
It's not there to fight. You mismanage your
Yeah,
troops.
he's not there to
friend.
fight.
Reese
I'm
is a
talking
good
about-
unit.
We can talk about the other guy that starts with the letter S. That's the wind
Soren.
mage. Thank you.
Don't-
He is there to fight.
What are you about to say about Soren?
He's great.
Okay.
I love him.
Okay.
Does he ever get to fight anybody? No, because he's so far away.
Oh, you don't
doesn't
use
know
him
how to play
properly then.
I do know how to. I'm aggressive.
No.
We gotta teach Dustin how to play
Yeah,
video
we
games.
clearly do.
Please.
You move
If
your.
I played again, I'd let Rise die again.
No.
No, dude.
If you told me that only for story reasons and not for functionality reasons, I'd give you a break. But he's a great, useful
He's
character.
very useful. He's
Yes,
vital.
he is, and
Vital
he's
in
very
hard mode.
important for story as well. If you let him die, you miss out story wise.
On a whole bunch
He doesn't
of
care.
stuff.
And that's why it's a bad game design.
Oh,
No, I do.
stop it.
I would love to
No.
have the full story. That I don't even understand how that makes sense. How can you have? Because my understanding, every character can die except you, permadeath except you, Ike.
Yes.
Yeah, game over if Ike
Yeah.
dies.
Correct.
So what happens if you're rolling the whole game with Ike? You don't got any story anymore.
Well, you do, but you will miss out on parts of the story. It depends on who's alive, because after each chapter, when you get to the base part, you have your support stats, you have your other information. If you have certain characters who aren't in your party, you're going to miss out on those parts of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying if Ike's your only guy that's alive, and I know that's probably not actually possible, without some kind of cheat
Well,
code.
Ike's
Or
no, it
ridiculously
is.
strong.
They say Ike. I've heard rumors that Ike is a weak lord in
No.
No,
the series.
he's good.
Ike, you could take Ike by himself and beat this game, honestly.
Okay, then you can literally perma-lose all the rest of the characters. What story is there then? Because
Well,
in
okay.
each cutscene in between the
That-
the battles, there's a
That
lot of
actually
dialogue.
sounds. But that actually sounds great to
Okay,
me.
Kenny.
The 46
Less
characters is
text.
overwhelming. I want a traditional RPG.
Yeah.
Let me just take Ike through his
So
So
story.
you're still going to get the core story of the game as
Right.
you progress. The thing that you will really miss out
How?
on, and what's really great about these games, is the support conversations. that you were just talking
relationships.
about. The
Right.
relationships. So in the base, you can talk. If I forget the rules because each Fire Emblem has different rules about how you unlock support conversations. I believe it's the traditional one still in Path of Radiance, where if you are fighting alongside another unit, like spatially, you
Yes.
get this hidden XP bar, for lack of a better term, that goes up, and you can hit breakpoints and start conversations with them in the base, and you get their
Yes.
backstory. And they have, like, Ike has a different backstory with Titania than he has with Mist and Soren, whoever else he can support
Yes.
with. And it goes from C to S or C to A conversations.
CBA.
CBA, and then
Yes.
you get bonuses
Yes.
in battle for higher ranks of support conversations if you're close to that unit. It's a great hidden mechanic, and it's tied to the story. I think it's another staple of the series, and I think it's done well.
Yeah.
I'd buy it. It's that whole, like, mom lifted a car off their kid's strength. Like, when you care about someone, you're gonna go to bat for them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fun mechanic that, like, isn't required, but that encourages you to learn the characters a little bit more, encourages you to think one level deeper in battle when you are trying to, try hard and be strategic. And it's an optional thing, but it's a nice sort of extra set of flavor that you can get into, and gives you more reason if you have favorite characters to, like, kind of just focus on and use them and use them together. Just tons of options.
And huge replayability factor, too. That's actually the reason why I replayed FE7 so much growing up, was like, oh, I want to support Matthew and Guy and see what that does. And
Do you know this whole conversation started with what are our favorite characters at the game that we never answered?
I did,
It's my fault.
Well, hold on.
Brandon.
I want to clear it up here. So, Nolan, what it is they got to be within 3 spaces of each other.
3.
And it's about how many chapters they're around each other. And, like, for example, Soren and Ike, if you keep them around each other, and on your menu screen for your characters, if you tab over, you can see the support boost. But, like,
that's right, yeah.
Soren and Ike, they have, like, one of the best ones. Like, if you keep them together and their support gets to A level, Soren will basically dodge every attack that comes his way. His skill activates where he gets, like, double the quadruple attacks every turn. Like,
it's really strong, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he becomes a beast if he levels up with Ike. And, like, if you pair, like, Nafini and Braum, she's a tank.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's my go-to.
I like not knowing the specific bonuses. I think that's fun to try to, like, figure that out later as you unlock it. Like, I don't remember if the more modern entries reveal those stats or if they keep them kind of, like, behind the scenes still, but it's a good
people always figure them out whether they're surfaced or not.
Yeah,
and it can be fun to do that 1 or 2 times. By the time you've played the game 15 times, though, you're gonna have a sense of who gets along well with who, and, like, regardless, that's just how that's gonna go.
Well, like Dustin, though, I have the player's guide. I'm a big strategy guy when I play games like this because I want to know all the information. And so, like, I've even gone as far as, like, make notes for, like, my starting position for my units, how to do the first or second move for the best playthroughs, like what items can you not bypass this point, like how to maximize your support at each chapter. Like, I've really gotten into this game. There's even a YouTube channel that goes through and shows you in hard mode how to get through the prison chapter stealth-wise to get the mass bonus experience. And I actually studied that video so much I wrote down a step-by-step by turn how to do it for people and have helped people get through that chapter.
Are you talking about chapter 10?
I believe so. The one where you get Nafini and Braum and all that.
Yeah, the prison. Yeah, that chapter is.
If you get through it stealth, you get like 900 bonus experience.
Dang.
You talked about one of the important things that you do is, like, finding all of the weapons that your characters need. I think it's worth pointing out that there is durability on your weapons in this game, which is not always a mechanic that you have. And you also have weapon selection choices as well, which is super helpful because, like many other Fire Emblem games, you've got the triangle system, the rock, paper, scissors, axe, sword, lance, strategic circle that you've got to pay attention to.
Strategic circle is crazy when it's a triangle. Axe, sword, lance is the one way you could have said that incorrectly because that's not how they line up.
It's a triangle. You can list them in any order, and that's how they line up.
Ooh,
because
yes.
Sword.
I wasn't saying one is better than the other. I was listing them in a circle, and a triangle fits exactly in a circle. Everything Dustin is saying is wrong.
Wait, your reasoning is crazy too. Y'all are both crazy. Brandon's gonna explain the triangle really quick. Here we go.
Yeah, we should actually explain it.
And at some point, y'all will allow me to get back to the character question.
At some point,
no
but
one's
not
allowed
yet.
us to go
But
there.
not
This is
yet.
crazy.
To ever let
This
you
is
go
crazy.
there.
So it's sword to axe that has an advantage, axe to lance that has an advantage, and lance to sword that has an advantage. And if you think about a real life battle, that's exactly how it would work out.
Yeah.
Because a sword has a better reach than an axe would. An axe, you can get in on like a lance user pretty decent, and a lance can get to a sword person pretty easy.
A gun would beat them all.
Gun would beat them all.
Gun's a coward's weapon.
Yeah.
Woo! Ike would never.
Okay, Dustin's favorite unit.
Speaking of Ike, he's a character.
You just want to tell us who your favorite character is, and you won't let us
I
have
asked
any
the
other
question
discussion until
forever
you do.
ago.
Answer Nolan's question.
Fine,
It's clearly
fine.
not. It's clearly not Rice. So who is it?
Rice dead.
Yeah. Poor Rice.
Well,
Rest in peace.
I hate Shannon.
yeah.
All of these are as a person because he's very racist, which is a big part of the story here, which you wouldn't expect in a Fire Emblem, I don't think. Although maybe there are some of those kind because you always have different factions.
That's a big plot point here is the Lagoons
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah.
I really like Oscar and Boyd. They're early units, but
Solid.
the green-haired guys, they are one's got an axe and the other is mounted, which by the way, I think in any Fire Emblem, your mounted units are just OP. Like they can be so crazy. They do so much damage.
Mobility is super helpful.
Well, your
especially being able to get in and then back out when you need to.
It's crazy.
Super
your
helpful.
favorite and least favorite line up with Truth. Yes, mounted units are amazing. Archers in Fire Emblem typically suck. They have one purpose, and it's to kill flying units really well. And that happens, and they can be fine, but they need to be promoted all the way, and then have the best bows in the game to give them extra range and stuff to be good. So that lines up.
Mages
I also
are
really
better.
liked
Mages
are better.
Than
snipers,
archers,
yeah.
Can't ever get to any enemy. I also really liked Marcia because she is she's a little bit later in the early game, but
First Pegasus Knight you get.
Yes.
I think she's the first Peg Knight you get.
She is.
So just being able to, I'm telling you, any mounted unit is
You're right.
just so strong.
I agree.
Not
Marcia is
only-
my answer. I love that
really?
unit. Yes.
Not only for what you said, get in, get out, but for being able to pick up units and keep them safe, and transport them out of battle if they're into something
Rescue,
dangerous.
Huge mechanic. Very good.
All right, Kenny, did you have favorite, least favorite?
No, I'm surprised that two of the ones you listed as some of your favorites were favorites, though. Boyd and whatever forgettable
You're just trying to
horse
make me
dude.
mad today.
No,
It's Boyd and Oscar, Kenny.
Oscar.
Yeah, they're
Oscar
brothers.
is the first character that I lost, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just let him stay
What?
dead.
The first character.
Are you kidding
Wait, you
me?
lost him that early?
Yeah. No. I went back and,
Okay.
like a normal person, replayed the map and saved him.
But how did you lose him?
He got it. I
Yeah, they're thick.
sent him out too far by himself, and it was poor strategy. I learned, I treated him like I treated Titania, and he's not that strong.
No.
And so I sent him off to skirmish little thing and try and get out of there, and he didn't have quite the mobility, and then he got swarmed. And I learned my lesson. We did better with him in the future, but he was my first casualty.
Gotcha.
That's unfortunate, man. Paladin's one of my favorite classes in all of Fire Emblem, and
Which is
gets,
Titania, right?
Yes, which is Titania.
Yeah.
She starts as one, but if you get Oscar up there, I mean, it's GG's.
Brandon, who are a couple of your favorites?
Okay, so my favorite is probably Nafini, who you get when you rescue her from there. Like I said, I feel like she's very underrated. I've read online that a lot of people are like, oh, she's not that good unless you invest a bunch of time in her. But
They
it's
don't like investing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, you just use some bonus XP on her right away, get her leveled up. And like I said, if you pair her with Braum, she is a tank. And especially in the sequel, Nafini is a boss. She will take out entire chapters by herself.
She can
I
become a
love that
general,
character.
right?
Yeah, that's fun.
A Hellbreeder or whatever. She doesn't
There's
become
a
a general.
different name for it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what Braum and Gatry become her
Right. Okay.
generals. Yeah, she's the other one.
Nice.
So she's one of my favorites. I also like Marcia as well. And then Boyd, Oscar, yeah, and
Names 46 characters.
He just keeps going.
No.
I also like Jill a lot.
Oh yes, Jill is
mounted unit.
awesome. The
Unit. She
Wyvern.
is a unit, and I like Astrid as well.
Did you just say unit 7 times?
They just said it too, but I followed.
I also like Ileana. I think she's better than Soren.
You think so? Like stat wise?
If you invest in her,
I
she's
gotcha.
awesome.
For folks who didn't play along with us this week, we should explain the difference between the races that you come to learn about here. Because that's an important thing with like gameplay elements, especially as you get later into the game and aren't just playing as the humans, the Beorc, as in this world, but also get to play as the, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, the Lagus?
Laguz.
How would you say it?
I'll say Laguz. I don't know if it's right.
That's probably better.
Yeah.
You've got 3? Or is it just those 2?
It's Leaf.
I mean, those are like the primary ones, but...
And not Mordecai.
Well, I wasn't saying units. I was
he's saying races.
It's just the 2 different races, or is there 3?
I think it's just 2.
No,
Okay,
it's 2 races, but there are 4 types of Laguz, which is worth pointing out. You have the Beast tribe, you have the Bird tribe, which you have Hawks, and you have the
Nolan.
I don't like birds, guys.
We're starting
Leave
the rumors.
me alone.
I forget what the other one is. What's the other one, Nolan? It's the
Tiger?
Hawks and the
Beast, Bird, and Dragon.
The Blackbirds.
Dragon.
No. Because you got the hawk birds and then you got the blackbirds. I forget what they are. I think they're raven.
Oh,
they're
Hawk,
ravens.
Raven, and Heron.
There we go. Yes, and then heron. Yeah, and the dragon as well.
So you've got different categories in each of the broader ones. But anyway, they're beast people.
Yeah, their main thing is they're animorphs.
Right.
Yeah.
But they don't all get along. They're very different, races. Kind of like think of us in Russia, basically.
Yeah.
They're the Russians of Fire Emblem.
If Russians could transform into actual literal beasts and then use that as their mechanic for
which
fighting,
we don't know for sure,
right?
Yeah, you don't know that.
I do. I know.
And
I'm just saying they don't all get along. They're very different.
Yes.
And they are very different from your other units as well, gameplay wise.
Yes.
The mechanic with those characters is they're very strong when they are in animal form.
Correct.
When they are in animal form, which is the trick. They have a meter that builds that allows them to assume that form and get their abilities. And most of them, if not all of them, are melee. And you have, they're not are any of them ranged?
I think they're all melee.
They're all melee.
At least the primary motif
they
is
hit
melee.
very hard, but when they're out of that form, they're very vulnerable. And personally, I don't like dealing with them. They're good.
The more damage they take, the faster they transform too.
A little bit
right,
of
which I don't
there.
like. That
Yeah.
I don't like taking damage mechanics because I like to play carefully. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not a fan of them
cool.
either.
Nolan's the whole reason these countries are at war.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean I didn't like them.
We don't like using them, Dustin.
I don't like using them.
They're just not the best choice of characters, honestly.
Yeah.
Except for the Heron. When you get the Heron, which he is,
remember what that is.
he looks like a angel, and he transforms into a swan.
Tabarn?
You get him. What's that?
Tabarn? The character Tabarn? Is he what you're talking about?
No. He is. You probably didn't get that far in the game.
I didn't this week.
Okay, yeah, he is a support character, and you can use him from a distance. When he's in his human form, he can reactivate 2 characters that are side by him.
Right. Oh, he's a dancer.
When he gets in his
yeah.
When he gets to his swan form, he can reactivate 4 people.
That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
So you just get 4 people
strong.
all around him, reactivate them, and you can use 4 people twice. He is a S tier character for sure.
Yeah, dancers always are reactivating a unit that's already gone on the field is just OP.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
I know that this is going to be hard to believe if you are a fan of the New Game Plus podcast, but we are nearing the end of our gameplay section and haven't talked about how to play the game yet. So,
I have scattered in very, very many important game mechanics.
We have talked about Fire Emblem 2 podcast episodes before, so it's the same.
Yeah.
We said
Absolutely.
anime chess. It really is that. It's a grid-like stage where you're able to move your units around. Each unit is different than the other, and they have different movement. They have different abilities. We've talked about the the weapon circle, according to Kenny, and how those interact with one another. But
every triangle can fit in a circle,
which has
Come
no
at me.
bearing to the conversation.
Moving on.
But you're moving these units around, and you have a different. One thing that I really respect about the Fire Emblem series at large, but particularly Path of Radiance, because I feel like I really felt like more than my previous Fire Emblem experience, that each stage is different, not just in its layout, but each stage is different in what is being asked of you. Now, they're going to have to cycle through some of them, but you have got a lot of different win conditions.
Heck yeah.
You've got seize, rout, escape, defend, survive, are just some of the few, but like they're drastically different. So on one, you might be you're overwhelmed and there are more reinforcements coming in. So you don't need to stay and fight. You need to try to get out, escape. So you have to try to get to a particular point on the map. And once you get there, then no matter how many rounds in or how many enemies left, you've completed that battle. Yeah. There's another one where it's survive. You have to survive 6, or so rounds. And so it's just
it's like waves. It's hard.
Defend up and try to survive as much as possible.
Yeah.
You've of course got the ones that are clear the map and stuff, but it doesn't rely on that, and it's all tethered of the story. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also love that within those maps, there's also other interactables. There's bushes you can stand on that heal you. There's houses you can go talk to people that are optional, but that they may thank you for coming in and rescuing them and give you an item or give you something helpful. There's all kinds of things to do that are sort of, I don't know, icing, like stuff that they wouldn't have to put in there, but they were like, if we're letting someone go in and spend all of this time doing things, if they're going to be thorough and explore and be creative, we're going to reward them for that.
Yeah. Later in the game, there's also desert. There's like hills and rocks and things that will affect like if you can avoid or if your accuracy is lower and things like that too. So many of things on the field that really impact the gameplay too, which is awesome because, like you said, Dustin, it really makes it feel different every stage you go to. And it gives it that more realistic feel. Like when you're in the desert, your heavy units will not move very far. Whereas your lighter units, you can move faster.
Anyways.
Well, because you think about sand, right? If you're wearing armor, you're going to sink. And that's... Yeah. Some games, it's not like that. It's the same. Even though it's different, it doesn't impact that. Where Fire Emblem, it's more realistic, and I like that.
Yeah, and... I mean, just to add on to that, like there are some where there's bridges so that you have to cross, so that serves as choke points. There are some that are like in the forest, but there are some that are in a fortress, which are similarly spelled, but very different experiences in the game. I just really felt more than any other Fire Emblem that I was doing something very different on each stage. Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to do with so many chapters.
Yeah, it is.
And so many Fire Emblem games. But I really do think they did it here. What, Kenny?
Did you just point out that fortress and forest are spelled similarly and imply that therefore they should sort of be the same thing?
People might think so, but I said that they are different experiences. Yeah.
That's the funniest thing. I wish that's how the world worked.
You'll be...
And speaking of bridges, later in the game, there's a bridge level that has booby traps on it. Where if you step on the wrong space, you fall down on spikes and it paralyzes you for like a turn or two. Because it's like reinforced bridge by the enemy that you're trying to get into day in. So like that's another interesting aspect. Like, there's really no good way to tell. It's just random, and you might get messed up wherever you land, and you're like, oh great.
Yeah. One of the things that I really respect about this game is that it's got so many options for you to customize and tailor your experience so it's more enjoyable for you. Now, I've seen it in other Fire Emblems where you can turn off the battle animations, and people like y'all just do it for speed, as if you're not trying to get into the story and really watch him slide across and do a crit hit with the sword. Like, I never turn those off. I do turn, like, dialogue speed up, and I turn battle speed up and movement speed and some of those things, but you've got so many options. And then on top of that, in contrast to last week's game, which was Red Alert, that had no tutorial, this game has a robust tutorial that is completely optional.
Yeah.
Like, you can turn it on, you can turn it off, you get to decide early on, you can decide to watch them later. And they are so helpful. It's not just text, it's a visual showing you how to do each and every component. Now, here's the thing. I played Fire Emblem, so I really didn't need them, but it was a good refresher, and they were pretty quick. It was just so nice. I'm just talking about they thought about so many things, from the options to customize your experience to the tutorial. So many things make it where it doesn't necessarily make the game easier, but it does make the game easier to play.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It doesn't make it easier, but easier to play.
Yeah.
Lets you play it the way you want to.
Yeah.
And still give you the experience of the game, both from characters and strategy viewpoints, but also UI and customization and all those other things as well. They really went the last mile in making a fully fleshed out game and world experience.
I just wish you could have had a choice in where your level ups went. Like, kind of, I know you mentioned that in your first play, Kenny, that it's just kind of randomized. You don't really get a choice. And I don't know if you guys were unlucky enough to get it, but sometimes you'll level up with no stat changes at all, which is horrible.
Good game mechanic.
There were
terrible.
1 or 2 times.
It is, y'all.
There were
Listen.
1 or 2 times
No, it's
where
not.
I got
It's terrible.
Hear me
one
out.
stat. I got so sad.
Same.
One's better than nothing.
Why is that fine?
Yeah.
Why is that not fine here, but it is fine in like roguelites where you deal with it. Like, that's the run. You're oh no, my Soren this run is like kind of bad. All right, I need to replace him. In
So
my mind,
37 hours when I play the game again, then Soren will be viable. That's not fun.
That is fun. That's good. New experience, replayability is a good mechanic. I don't want to if they let you automatically assign those stats. Come on, it would be too easy. Way too easy.
Dustin plays D&D without dice.
No. Listen, I don't think that you should select where the stats go. I do think that's not what it is. But I do think it could have been a little bit more balanced. I don't think you need a level up where you have 0 things increasing or even just 1. I think that it should have been fine-tuned a little bit more where you have a little bit more.
On the opposite time, though, I had 1 level up where I think I only missed 1 or 2 stats. Everything else went up, and I felt like such a boss. I was like, what? We're about to do some work. So you get the lows, but you get the highs too. And so I don't know. I'm kind of with Nolan here. I think overall, I think it works.
Aged.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first Fire Emblem game that is in 3D.
You're right.
Yes, it is.
You're right, but like that is one of the biggest things about this game. So you should be confident on that one.
I knew this game was in 3D. I wasn't 100% confident that it was like the very first one to do that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This game's in 3D.
Yeah.
I can.
The 2 GBA titles before it and all the ones before that in Japan were not 3D. They were pixel art 2D games.
Yep.
Which I loved the art of the other Fire Emblem games, particularly the character portraits. I've always thought those are so interesting and unique to look at. I was concerned with going to 3D. Honestly, my biggest concern was that we weren't going to have those kind of portraits, that kind of art. I really liked that pixel art.
Yeah.
I am happy to report that I think the feel of the Fire Emblem, even with the art, is still here. And you're only in 3D on the cutscenes, which are not too many, and we can talk about those, and on the battlefield. But all of the dialogue, which there's a lot of, and the storytelling is still kind of the flat surface that you would expect from a Fire Emblem. So you still have the portraits, you still have these kind of comic book like styled characters during the dialogue sequences that you would have from other Fire Emblems. They're just slightly animated, so like they'll blink, or there might be a slight nod of the head, which they may have done in other games as well. But I think this is still very, even on the art front, still very Fire Emblem. We didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
It's
same style as well, just like visually, and it has the look and feel. It didn't lose that in the jump to 3D, which is important, I think.
And I think the character models in the 3D space, the portraits are great. It's a different style than the pixel art. It's obviously not as pixely, but they did a really good job. I think I like that tone of the visuals. But then the 3D aspects too. Honestly, I thought coming back to this, I was gonna be like, oof, like that's kind of rough. But it's not that rough. Like
No.
they are stiff at times.
Yeah, there were a few animations that I was like, that looks pretty unrealistic. Or, there were some moments where it kind of showed that it was their first one doing this. But nothing that I was like problematic to me. Just some places that I was like, that could have used a little more polish.
But like you're playing chess, so you don't need them to. Right. You don't need the knight to rear up on his back legs. Like they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
They're
I'd love that. I don't know what kind of chess you play.
And
play battle chess.
It was really cool to see the beginning of where the series was going. After this, that's the way the games looked. Even in Awakening in the 3DS, it's a different kind of 3D because it was a smaller screen and it wasn't a home console, but they still kept that same, like they didn't go back to, well, they kind of did actually in Awakening. It's more the traditional style. I take that back. But this, like, to me, I've played Engage, which I think is the most recent one on the Switch. Looks a lot like this game, honestly, in a lot of ways. And I just am really impressed when they can take a series, Intelligent Systems in this case, from 2D to 3D. Very huge jump for a lot of these companies, especially around this time. And they successfully did it, completely successfully.
One of the areas you're going to see 3D is in the cutscenes. There's a cutscene up front that's just an anime. I mean, it's a fully cartoon anime experience that is done remarkably well. Yeah. I mean, like it looks really good. There's voice acting all throughout this game during the cutscenes.
That's also new.
Kind of over the top cartoony, right? But like I think it all worked really, really well, particularly for the time.
I mean, it feels like you're watching an anime, which for the GameCube era was amazing graphics on that system. You never saw that before, and it was like, wow. And until this day, like even like now, you go back and you play this, and you're like, wow, these graphics look way ahead of their time. Like it's beautiful. It doesn't look bad. Like you go back and play some games, you're like, oh, this is rough to play. You can play this today and still feel really at home with like graphically how it looks, like the voice animation, like. It really does feel like you're almost playing an anime from back in that time. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I would say this isn't the earliest GameCube game, so it's like later in the GameCube's life cycle. So there was more time where things had advanced. But but we always talk about when you go from 2D to 3D, there are some aging factors that we typically see. I do agree that when you're on the battlefield, that's where you'll notice some things.
Yeah.
But nothing, in my opinion, was detrimental in this game due to the switch from 2D to 3D.
No, it still functions perfectly as a Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, as a Fire Emblem game.
And so nice that you do have the option to shift your camera when you are on the battlefield. That was helpful sometimes, just even like tactically.
In the new one, you can fully swivel the whole thing. Like you can really...
Which is so nice for a game of this type. Yeah. So that was a great thing for them to implement.
Nolan, Brandon, when it comes to the music, I mean, for me, it feels like Fire Emblem, and it's good for that.
Gotcha.
None of the tracks stand out to me. It's very fantasy, very Fire Emblem, but I want to hear from the Fire Emblem guys of like how does this OST line up with some of the others?
Second best, my second favorite
of all Fire Emblems.
Yeah. I haven't played Radiant Dawn, so.
Which would your favorite be, Nolan?
Awakening, easily.
Awakening, okay.
Yes, the soundtrack is massive for Awakening, and every track is like orchestral and amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I will say I think the music in this game is beautiful. I mean, it's not the best, but I think for the setting, for each, like, where they're using the music for the individual characters, like, I do think there's a lot of diversity with it. I liked that. Every character has their own music. Every type of interaction and combat has its different music. Like when you're shifting from something like good to bad or whatever. Like you could definitely hear like the sudden change in music. You're like, oh, you know something's coming. Especially like the Black Knight. Whenever you hear his music come on, it's like, oh geez,
Black Knight
start
theme.
hauling.
One of my favorites, yeah.
Yes, and he plays a very important role in the sequel too.
Hey, in the sequel.
Yeah. In the sequel.
I mean, he plays a very important role in this game too. He does something not nice.
I had a long play pulled up just
yeah.
playing in the background, and Reese just got killed, and the guy reset. He reset.
He reset.
Yeah.
No, that's the one you let go.
No.
False.
I pulled up a list a couple of years ago. IGN put out a top 10 list of the best tactics RPGs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They have Path of Radiance at number 8.
Yeah.
Of all time tactical.
Yeah, it made it into their top 10. I think it's the only Fire Emblem there, so it's their favorite Fire
I'm not
Emblem.
surprised they picked that one to put on the list either.
It's interesting.
I thought you were going to ask us to guess, and I was going to guess 6.
You were going to guess higher.
I mean, you already told us the answer.
Nolan, do you want to guess?
I'm going to guess 8?
Yeah, dude.
Whoa.
Wow,
What's
really
number 1?
lucky.
Just curious. It's going to be some random series.
No. It's Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean? Final Fantasy Tactics is a huge tactic.
It's
RPG.
it's not for me, but it's a good game. I know it's a good game.
You've got other games on. Oh no, sorry. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is not the only. It's not even the highest. Three Houses is.
I was gonna say, like, if this came out before Three Houses, because my sister's a bigger Fire Emblem fan than me. She's played every single one of them, and Three Houses is by far her favorite. She says it's a masterpiece.
Really?
Right?
She says it's a masterpiece. I haven't played it yet.
Nolan, you didn't hate it. You played it a lot.
Of course I played it, and of course I enjoyed it because it's Fire Emblem. But if I were to rank for you the Fire Emblem games, your sister would be pissed off. Your sister would be pissed off.
You put this one above that one.
Like, and I've got more to say on that in summary section, but no.
There's a lot of other Fire Emblem games in the series we've talked about, and we alluded to them right now. I think that someone said 16 up front. I think there's 17 core entries.
Sounds right.
And 5 spinoffs right now.
And we still haven't got them all in the U.S., which is unfortunate. Some of them are still Japanese exclusive. Yep. It's so sad.
I would imagine translated by fans.
Of the Holy War, I think, is still Japan exclusive.
I
would imagine
776 or whatever, I think.
Yeah.
There's ways to play them, yes. Just official releases, there's some still in Japan only.
And then we said it, but it's so interesting and such a good thing. But the story of Path of Radiance continues in its direct sequel, Radiant Dawn.
I'm going to play it.
Oh, you should, Nolan.
Thankfully, Reese would still be dead in that game.
Oh, God.
You're a terrible person.
He would not.
And then hardcore fans will probably know that one of the reasons Path of Radiance is talked about in the retro gaming community is because of how rare and expensive the physical media is.
Because I believe they only released 250 copies in the US. It was a very limited release when it came out because it was the first entry for the 3D
console. Sure.
Yeah, and they didn't think it was going to do very well. You know, like I picked up mine back in the day for like $25 from GameStop. You know, and
you got lucky. Dustin, tell me the prices and I'll tell you something after that.
It's $157 used or loose.
Yeah.
It is $425 new.
I own this game.
Yeah, you got lucky. It came down. Back in when my sister was looking for a copy, it was $250 used.
That's crazy. I didn't realize there were so few copies. That tracks.
That's why, if you have a copy, you're lucky. Like myself, I've had mine since 2007, so I'm very grateful, and I still have my OG GameCube that I play it on.
Nice.
Oh, that's great. Can I have it?
No, absolutely not.
The reset button on mine broke, unfortunately. That still works. The GameCube works.
Yeah. Something I wanted to mention about age, too, that I think is a really big factor with this game is for a transfer run like on the Wii, you had to have an original Wii that had the GameCube port because later in the Wii's life cycle, they took away the GameCube option because you would need to put in your GameCube memory card with your completed file on this to be able to do a transfer run to get all your stat boosts. Unfortunately, like my sister who has a newer Wii, she can't do a transfer run because she doesn't have that GameCube port on her Wii.
Oh, I didn't realize they removed that.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
They ain't got a dongle?
No,
I
for
think
like the
so.
memory card though, Dustin. You got to put the memory card in your Wii, and they removed that on the newer Wii's because they figured at like halfway through the Wii's life, nobody's really bringing GameCube games for backward compatibility anymore. So to save
Wrong.
money, they took that away.
Huh.
It's unfortunate. So I'm lucky to have an OG Wii where I can put my GameCube memory card in and do it. And I would love for Nintendo to re-release this as like a dual pack with both games where you could finish one and be like, do you want to continue and go
They
right on
won't.
into the next one? I know
No,
That'd
and
be
I don't know.
awesome.
They don't believe in
Nintendo
Fire
hates
Emblem
us.
anymore.
I know.
No, I know that Fire Emblem they've never put in the
money.
I mean, there's a lot of entries, but they've never put in. Yeah, it's not the same as Mario or some of the other things,
No.
obviously. But but even with sales, like it is actually tremendously low comparatively speaking. But they have re-released some Fire Emblems and stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
they
like,
have.
Yeah.
I
shout
think
out-
it's prime. I think it's gonna happen on Switch too, especially now that we did an episode on it.
Oh yeah,
don't
they'll
know.
listen and just be like, "Oh, we'll do that for you boys."
Yeah, you know how it works.
Nintendo hates their fans. I feel like they don't care about us. Like the decisions they make, I don't understand, and I feel like they have forgotten about the GameCube mostly.
I'll talk to the CEO. We'll see what I can do.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require the majority of the vote to swing one way or the other. We typically do not do this on a director episode, but Brandon, before we recorded, requested that we do this. I told him that we don't want to hurt our guests' feelings, but he said bring it. It's not going to change his opinion one way or the other. So, Nolan, we'll let you start at least so that we'll begin in Brandon's camp. What did you think of Path of Radiance?
Okay. Obviously, I give it New Game Plus.
Oh.
I really, really love this game. I rank it very high on my list of favorite Fire Emblem games and just best ones that I think are the best designed and well written, and because that's one of the big issues with this franchise is poorly written characters, dialogue, cheesiness, and if you care about those things, it can really distract you. Like, I get it, and I think I would tell Dustin to avoid some of the games. It's so bad, but this one's good and did something very different. So I love this game, but I do want to say, revisiting it now, after having more of the more modern Fire Emblems under my belt, Engage, Three Houses, Fates, and this is going to be a controversial take for some, but this was the beginning of the end. And by the end, I mean classic style, no shipping, no kids, like no birth units, Fire Emblem. You can see the wheels turning on the creators of like they introduced the voice acting. They got even more anime with it, and they were like, what if we had them so they can ship them and they get married and have kids and you can use the units? And that's my problem with Three Houses. That game is not a Fire Emblem game. It is a dating sim first. I like anime chess, not chess anime. End of rant.
Okay. So no New Game Plus status.
No, I give a New Game Plus
okay.
100%. I'm just ranting about the newer games, that's all.
I will go next.
Yeah, go next.
I don't think moving to 3D added or subtracted anything from the Fire Emblem formula. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm glad that it didn't subtract, but it didn't add anything. Honestly, this felt just like any other Fire Emblem game, which, if you are a fan of the Fire Emblem series, it says good things. If you're not, I guess it says it's just more of the same. Honestly, and the people, Brandon and others would be able to like pick out all of the new things and the changes. And for me, I'm sure I could point out a few new things or things that were like completely added or changed. But honestly, it just felt like Fire Emblem. It didn't feel like anything new or changed to me. The story, of course, is different. And the story is good. The story is robust. I do give Kenny some credit, and he hasn't necessarily said, but there's a lot of reading. And I'm not going to mash through. I'm going to read. I'm going to try to internalize. I'm going to try to understand the story and figure out what's going on. There are some Fire Emblem tropes that I don't love, permadeath being one of them. I respect that in more recent iterations of Fire Emblem, they give you the ability to turn that off. Because I'm just going to restart the stage for the most part, and it's just going to be a waste of time. I've already made my piece about slow units that can't even get into the fray, etc. However, this is a Fire Emblem game, and Fire Emblem is a good series that puts love into the creation of the franchise. There's a lot of interesting characters here. They're not all like I didn't get to 40. I probably got to 15 characters, and they're all somewhat interesting. They all have their own unique things about them that make them worth wanting to build out, except the really racist Archer and Reese. I think that this is another Fire Emblem entry that doesn't move the franchise forward in any crazy way, but definitely doesn't detract, is a good solid entry in the series, and I give it my vote for New Game Plus status.
Can I say one thing real quick, Dustin? You said it didn't add anything. Let me say one thing it did add. Instead of playing on a 6-inch screen, I can play this on my 65-inch TV, which is nice.
That is nice. I don't own a TV, so I don't understand what it's like to play.
Well, you have a monitor.
He's not
that
joking
you're using,
either.
right?
He doesn't.
In fairness, if you hold the console close enough to
It's
your
65
eyes,
inches.
it looks just that big as.
Even playing it on a computer monitor is bigger than like a Game Boy Advance screen. I'm just saying that is an improvement.
Sure. But I love some of the Game Boy Advanced art. So
And I will say I
do
prefer
too.
Fire Emblem handheld. I do. On DS
that's-
especially. 3DS is prime. Anyways, Kenny.
This one
I'll punch you so hard.
is a well done title. It's got great music, decent visuals, fairly good pacing, assuming that you can embrace the long battles and the fact that you're going to have to read and scroll through some text and story. That's just Fire Emblem. But it leads to a pretty fun game. There's lots of really nice stuff that they put in here that they could have not included, just very sort of fleshed out. The game, the story, the whole package feels very full and meaningful without feeling bloated or too meandering, which I think is one of the things that some Fire Emblem games I feel like have fought with, where I'm caring too much about too many people too broadly. 46 characters is too many. I'm still not a huge fan of just the amount of walls of text I'm getting with this type of game in general, but this one didn't cause problems for me like some of them have in the past. So I think there's even a decent chance that I will revisit my run through and possibly finish playing through, which I certainly don't do often, and I think is a really good sign. Realistically, I probably won't, but like my intention is to, and often I'm like, okay, well, let's put that game in the back burner so we never have to touch it again. And it's not
That's
one
big.
of those,
That's big.
and that is big. So all of that to say, a New Game Plus for me as well.
Wow.
Brandon, wrap it up.
I am honestly surprised, Kenny. I did not think you would give it New Game Plus. So thank you so much for that. It makes me so happy. And I will agree with you, Nolan. I do like the handheld option. This is another reason I really wish they would bring it to Switch, where you had the option to play it on TV or handheld. That is one of the drawbacks I feel like, is I have to be tied down to my TV to play this game. But overall, I loved it. I thought the music was great. I think the graphics hold up to this day. It's beautiful. You can go back and enjoy it. Even if it's your first time playing here in 2025, you can still really enjoy this game, but it does not look rough. And I really love the diversity in the story. I think it brings so much here. Like, you do have racism in here. You have prejudice. You have, different struggles and things that I think people can relate to. And it's even educational in a way, because it's like, wow, you can really learn to love characters or hate characters. Like, I hate Shinnon. I think he's a racist pig, and I cannot stand that guy. But I think it's very eye-opening, too, that, they're not sugarcoating it. You're going to encounter people in the real world who are like this, and it really addresses that and teaches you how to cope with it. And, even with him being as racist as he is, I still try so hard to work with him. And, later in the game, you see, that he can, I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll see progression later in the game where some of these characters, how they originally started out looking at things one way, over time can start changing, seeing things different with persuasion and having their eyes open to bigger scenarios. So, overall, like I said, everything around this game, I think it's amazing. I love it. I've played through this game so many times. It is absolutely my favorite Fire Emblem. I love the sequel, but this one is what brought me to Fire Emblem. I love it, and the story only continues. And I will tell anybody, if you played this one, you have to play the sequel. I mean, it's like Kenny says, this particular series, the sequel did it better in every way. Like, it really did.
Well, thank you for bringing Fire Emblem Path of Radiance to our community this week. And I guess Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is New Game Plus certified.
Oh, yeah.
But what did you think on our YouTube poll? 45% said yes, it's worth playing today. 4% said no, go play something else. And 51% have never played it before.
Yeah.
They didn't have a GameCube.
It's just not a popular series, too.
Yeah.
And it's rare. Like I said, it's never been re-released. It's hard to find. There was only 250 copies. It's a very niche game. And that's why I wanted to bring it to the attention, because I feel like this game, a lot of people don't even know about. Everyone knows Three Houses. Most people don't know this one, and it's got a phenomenal story.
250 sounds criminally low, by the way.
I know, it is.
I think Japan must have been right? Like
it doesn't sell well. Yeah, they're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're done. Which, by the way, imagine a crossover series between Advance Wars and Fire Emblem.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Ike taking a sword to a tank. There's something there.
There's nothing
and watch,
there.
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I would like a Zelda Fire Emblem crossover.
No.
Many from our community played along this week and wrote in. Here's a few of your thoughts. T. Morris said, I don't like 95% of anime. I tried Final Fantasy Tactics 20 plus years ago and basically swore off strategy RPGs as they weren't the huge RPGs I yearned for. Well, you're going to love Fire Emblem.
Yeah, what?
I decided to give this a go anyway, knowing that my taste has changed drastically and I love games I can take a small bites out of. I might now understand waifu culture, as Titania is incredible. I'm only about halfway through, which is all I'll be able to do this week due to work, but it's already made me add all others in the series to my backlog. Easy NGP, and I hope the last half of the game sends this up into the top games of all time for me.
Nice.
Whoa. You've got by the way, you have a lot of time ahead of you to play through this.
Yeah, seriously.
And maybe you do like anime. You just had to see the anime girls, I guess.
Just had to see
Garlisle said, the upgrade to 3D may not have come with the most gorgeous textures, and the models don't look so hot if you pay too much attention, but the style is also extremely distinctive and clear. They animate well and give the battlefields a close quarter feeling more than ever before. The solid presentation also combines well with the game just nailing everything else in the franchise formula. Generally solid map design and a variety, memorable and useful characters, a solid soundtrack, and one of the best told stories in the franchise, which can stand alone even if it's just the first half. It's one of the series' easiest even on its hardest settings, but that also makes it a great jumping on point. It's one of the most beloved in the franchise and probably in my own top 3.
Top 3 Fire Emblems, I'm assuming. Yeah, valid.
Yeah.
The Gaming Druid said, selling Path of Radiance to GameStop for a couple of dollars or of store credit is my greatest regret in all of gaming.
What a L. Store credit, too.
Oh.
Come on now.
Every time that I see either of these games on sale for hundreds of dollars, it sends a shiver of depression down my spine. And this isn't just because the game is worth a lot, it's also just a fantastic game. Sure, it doesn't have a lot of the quality of life features of modern Fire Emblem games released since Awakening, but it is excellently designed in nearly every way. I've only played the game for a couple of hours this week, but I really enjoyed revisiting it, and I plan on continuing my playthrough in the weeks to come. Easy NGP for me.
I'm liking all the positivity
Yeah.
that we're hearing.
NGP community likes Fire Emblem, dude.
They do, yeah.
Even though maybe it's just because it's not a bunch of Americans. We've got Canadians on
true.
here. And we've got these people on here. For now, though, it is time for us to set aside Path of Radiance, although Kenny's going to come back to it. We are going to randomly select from our Retro Master list what game we'll be playing for the next 7 days, 15 years or older, any console, any genre. Randomizing now. Believe it or not, we're remaining on the GameCube if you would like to.
Really?
Wow.
I'll take that. Well, I'll
Okay.
take that for sure, yeah.
But it's one of those that was on it all. So you
Of
got
course.
GameCube, PlayStation 2,
It
Xbox.
still could be okay. Still could
You've
be
also
okay.
got PC.
Smells like an EA
released-
game to
Okay.
me.
It released in 2003, and it was developed by Shiny Entertainment and published by Infogrames.
No, we're screwed.
This sounds terrible.
I don't know.
It is based on a different media, something from a different media.
So a movie, show,
Or like a newspaper article.
probably
Correct.
a
It's
newspaper
one of
article.
those. One of those two.
I'm glad
I'm
you said
saying movie. I think it's a movie game.
that. It's probably a movie.
It features over an hour of original footage from the film.
Is it a Harry Potter game?
We are playing an
no.
action-adventure game, and it is Enter the Matrix.
Oh, wow.
This is probably bad, but what if it's good? How cool
It's
would it
not,
be?
though, probably, because it's the first game based on the Matrix film series. It's
Right.
concurrent with the story of Matrix Reloaded. Is that number 2?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a sequel.
And it was written and directed by the Wachowskis,
Wachowskis?
which
Wachowskis.
are the
Really?
ones that did the films,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
yes, they
They
created
are.
it. They
Yeah.
created it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
that might just be crediting them though because it's based on
Oh.
it. I don't know, but if they
Yeah,
had a
you're
hand
right.
in
It
it,
could
it could be okay.
Well, find a copy of Enter the Matrix for any of those consoles or even your PC if you would like. Enter the Matrix. Find it. Get a copy. Play it along with us for the next 7 days.
Enter the Discord by going to
Oh.
discord.gg/newgameplus.
Enter the Patreon because we're not creative around here.
Don't say we.
Thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com, including some new patrons who are supporting us for the first week this time, including William and Cody, who is our newest producer level supporter. Thank you for your support. Of course, we want to say a shout out to our directors, Bro Jim, Dustin's 5 o'clock Shadow, Super Hyper, Siegfried, Mystic, and Tins. And of course, this episode, Brandon, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it so much. And to our many producer level supporters as well, including Adam and Marley and Antonin, Ben, Bill, R, Craig, Dagany, Dan Willett, Carlisle, Guardian Cade, Hallex, Harold, Hey Brother, J Robert, Jake, Jordan, George Orbinks, Justin Clint, Levi, Maximum Megatron, Miss Muso, Not Enough Dog, Radmac, Retro Man, Sagen, Sasser, Scotty Shane, Shauna Snakematic, Swaggy Taco Fish, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Tins, Turtle, Unbedavable, and Zion. We appreciate every single one of you.
Thank God. It wasn't a mouthful this time. Brandon, would you like people to find you online, and if so, where?
Sure, they can find me on Discord. That's where I'm mostly at. I'm always open to chat with people, and I just want to give a shout out to Remember the Game podcast while I'm on here too. It's another retro gaming podcast that I love. If you guys haven't listened to it, check it out. It's by comedian Adam Blank. He's from Canada, and it's great.
Nice.
Oh,
free
nice.
Canadian.
We like Canadians.
Your
He's
Discord is
hilarious.
Scorch 57 2004.
That is correct.
All right.
Boom.
You can find us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our episode artwork was created by our friend Dave. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Enter the Matrix. Until then, I'm still Oscar.
I'm still permanently dead.
Astrid Best Grill.
And who are you, Brandon?
I am Ike.
And this has been New Game Plus.